The stars looked cold and distant through the cracked viewing port of the colony ship Astral Dawn. Captain Zethara pressed her 6 arms against the metal wall and felt the ship shake again. The engines were dying, and she knew it. 50,000 refugees filled every corner of her ship. They had escaped their burning homeworld just 3 days ago when the black ships came from the sky. The Varkoth had shown no mercy. Cities turned to ash. Oceans boiled away. Millions died in hours. Zethara's blue skin showed the stress lines that marked her people when they feared death. Her large eyes, built for seeing in the deep waters of her homeworld, now stared at readouts that spelled doom. The quantum drive was finished. Life support would last maybe 6 more days. "Captain," called Kyltos from across the bridge. The chief engineer's voice cracked like ice. "The main drive core is completely dead. We need rare earth metals to fix it. Without them, we cannot jump to hyperspace." The bridge fell quiet except for the sound of failing systems. Warning lights blinked red across every console. The air already tasted stale. With so many people on board, the recycling systems worked overtime just to keep everyone breathing. Zethara looked at her crew. They were good people. Scientists, explorers, teachers. Her people had spent centuries learning about the stars and the life that filled them. They built ships that looked like the sea creatures from their homeworld, smooth curves and flowing lines. Beautiful ships meant for discovery, not war, but beauty meant nothing against the Varkoth war machine. "Any word from the other escape ships?" Zethara asked. Communications Officer Nethal shook his head. His voice was barely a whisper. "Nothing, Captain. We lost contact with the other colony ships 12 hours ago. The Varkoth hunters are fast." Through the speakers they could hear the sounds from the lower decks. Children crying. Adults trying to comfort them with words that felt hollow. Everyone knew they were going to die out here in the cold dark between stars. The Varkoth were not like other species. Most races in the galaxy fought for resources or territory. The Varkoth fought because they enjoyed killing. They were insects that walked on 2 legs, with hard shells for skin and minds that knew only war. Their ships looked like the weapons they carried, all sharp angles and weapon ports built to destroy. "Captain," Keltos called out, his voice filled with panic. "I'm reading 3 ships dropping out of hyperspace, big ones." The main screen flickered to life. 3 black shapes appeared against the starfield. They were huge, each one twice the size of the Astral Dawn. Red lights glowed along their hulls like angry eyes. Weapon ports opened like hungry mouths. "Varkoth hunter-killers," whispered Navigation Officer Yelith. "They found us." Zethara felt her heart sink. She had hoped they might have a few more days. Time to say goodbye properly. Time to record messages for the families they would never see again. But the Varkoth had been tracking them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The lead enemy ship was massive. Its hull was covered in scars from countless battles. Weapon turrets moved like the eyes of a predator searching for prey. This was a ship that had killed before, many times. "They're charging weapons," reported Tactical Officer Mektar. His hand shook as he read the displays. "Captain, we have no shields. Our weapons are meant for asteroid mining, not war." Zethara closed her large eyes. Her people had always believed that intelligence and kindness would win over violence. They had been wrong. In the end, the galaxy belonged to those with the biggest guns and the will to use them. The first Varkoth ship moved closer. Its weapon ports glowed brighter. Fighter craft began launching from its belly like insects swarming from a nest. Each fighter was small but deadly, built for one purpose: to kill everything in its path. "Open a channel to the colony decks," Zethara ordered. Her voice stayed calm even though her hearts were racing. As captain, she owed her people that much. The comm system crackled to life. 50,000 voices fell silent, waiting to hear from their leader. "My people," she began, "we have done our best. We saved as many as we could from our dying world. We have traveled far from home, seeking a new place to build our lives. But our journey ends here." She paused, listening to the sounds of the Varkoth, ships getting closer. Their engines hummed with deadly purpose. "The enemy has found us. Our ship cannot fight them. Our engines cannot carry us to safety." But remember this, we are not alone in the dark. Somewhere among the stars, other ships carry our people to new worlds. Our species will survive, even if we do not. Tears ran down her blue cheeks. In the background, she could hear families holding each other close, parents singing old songs to their children, the hymns of their people, meant to bring peace in the final moments. The Varkoth fighters were close now, their weapons locked onto the helpless colony ship. The lead fighter pilot was probably deciding which section to hit first. The engines? The life support? Or maybe the areas where the most civilians were packed together? "Captain," said Communications Officer Nethal, "should I try to surrender?" Zethara almost laughed. The Varkoth had never accepted surrender in all their recorded history. They saw other species as prey, nothing more. Talking to them would be like asking a shark to spare a school of fish. "No," she said quietly. "Save our power for the emergency systems. Keep the families comfortable as long as we can." The first Varkoth ship was close enough now that they could see details on its hull. Weapon scars, battle honors, the symbols of destroyed worlds painted like trophies along its side. This ship had killed before, and it would kill again. Zethara looked around her bridge one last time. These people had served with honor. They had done everything possible to save their refugee ship. It was not their fault that the universe was cruel to those who chose peace over war. "All stations prepare for—" "Wait," shouted Kyltos from his engineering station. "I'm reading something strange on the deep space sensors." The tactical display flickered and changed. There, at the very edge of sensor range, something was moving, something big. "What is it?" asked Zethara. "I don't know, Captain. It's not Varkoth. The hull signature is completely unknown, but it's heading straight for us at incredible speed." The Varkoth fighters had stopped their approach. They seemed confused by the new reading as well. Even their advanced sensors were having trouble identifying what was coming toward them through the dark. Zethara stared at the display. In 30 years of space travel, she had never seen anything like it. The object was huge, but its design made no sense. It did not look like any ship in the galactic database. "How long until it reaches us?" she asked. "At current speed, less than 2 minutes." The bridge held its breath. Whatever was coming toward them through the void, it would arrive just as the Varkoth began their attack. Whether it meant salvation or just another way to die, they would know very soon. The unknown ship dropped out of hyperspace like a metal mountain falling from the sky. Captain Zethara had never seen anything like it in 30 years among the stars. Where her people built ships that flowed like sea creatures, this vessel looked like it was made for war and nothing else. It was huge. Over 2 kilometers of dark gray metal covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Scars ran along its hull like battle wounds that told stories of fights won and enemies defeated. The ship's design was all straight lines and sharp angles. No beauty, no art, just deadly purpose. "By the deep waters," whispered Kyltos. "What is that thing?" The mystery ship moved between the astral dawn and the 3 Varkoth hunters. It was smaller than the enemy vessels, but something about it made the air on the bridge feel electric. This was not a ship that ran from fights. On the human dreadnought USS Iron Resolve, Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and studied the tactical display. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Scars on his hands told the story of a soldier who had fought his way up from the ranks. 3 Varkoth heavy cruisers, reported Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres from the sensor station. "They've got at least 60 fighters between them. The civilian ship has no weapons and failing life support." Commander Lisa Hayes moved to stand beside her captain. She was shorter than Morrison, but just as tough. Her brown hair was pulled back in a military style, and her green eyes missed nothing. "Sir, we're outnumbered 3 to 1, long way from backup." Morrison nodded but did not look worried. He had been fighting in deep space for 15 years. The human fleet was small compared to the great powers of the galaxy, but every ship was crewed by people who knew their business. "Amanda, what's our weapon status?" he asked. Tactical Officer Amanda Price checked her displays. She was young but had steady hands and a quick mind. "All systems green, Captain. Railguns charged and ready. Missile tubes loaded. Point defense online. Paul, how are we doing down below? Chief Engineer Paul Martinez answered over the comm system. His voice carried the accent of Earth's old Americas. Engineering ready, Captain. All power systems running. Smooth. We can give you everything you need. Morrison looked at the main screen. The Varkoth ships were spreading out, getting ready to attack the refugee vessel from 3 sides. Their fighters were forming up for attack runs. In a few minutes, 50,000 innocent people would be dead. Nicole, open a channel to the civilian ship. Communications officer Nicole Baker worked at her station. She was quiet most of the time, but she knew 6 different galactic languages. Channel open, sir. On the astral dawn, Zethara nearly fell over when her comm system came alive. The voice that came through spoke perfect galactic standard, but with an accent she had never heard before. Civilian vessel, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Iron Resolve. We're here to help. Please move away from the enemy ships and let us handle this. Zethara stared at her comm officer. Can they really mean to fight all 3 ships? Before anyone could answer, the lead Varkoth vessel opened fire. Bright red plasma bolts shot across space toward the human ship. The Iron Resolve's shields lit up like blue fire as the enemy weapons hit them. Morrison did not even blink. Amanda, return fire. Let's show them what human engineering can do. The Iron Resolve's twin railguns fired with a sound like thunder. 2 tungsten slugs, each weighing as much as a small ship, shot out at incredible speed. The first slug punched through the Varkoth ship's shields like they were made of paper. The second one tore a hole in the enemy's hull big enough to fly a fighter through. Direct hit on the lead ship, reported Amanda. Heavy damage to their forward sections. The Varkoth could not believe what they were seeing. Their plasma weapons were feared across the galaxy. No ship should have been able to brush off their attack like it was nothing, and those railguns hit harder than anything they had ever faced. War leader. Thaxith commanded the Varkoth fleet from his flagship. He was old even by Varkoth standards, with thick black shell and mandibles that could crush metal. He had destroyed 17 different species in his long career. This unknown ship would be number 18. All ships, attack pattern 7, he ordered. Launch all fighters. Destroy that vessel. 60 Varkoth fighters swarmed toward the Iron, Resolve like angry insects. Each one carried enough firepower to level a city. Their pilots were bred for war, with reflexes faster than most species could even see. Lieutenant Commander Torres watched them come. Sir, they're launching everything. They have. Good, said Morrison. Amanda, activate point defense. Show them why you don't mess with human space. The Iron Resolve's hull came alive with weapon fire. Laser turrets tracked the incoming fighters with computer precision. Each shot found its target. Varkoth fighters exploded in bright flashes as the human point defense tore them apart, but there were too many. Some fighters got through and fired their plasma cannons at the human ship. The Iron Resolve shook as enemy fire hit her armor. Hull breach on Deck 7, reported Damage Control Officer Lieutenant Kevin Murphy. Sealing emergency bulkheads now. Morrison nodded. His ship could take the punishment. Human warships were built to survive anything the galaxy could throw at them. Paul, give me everything you've got. Nicole, send a message to the Varkoth commander. Nicole opened the channel. Morrison's voice carried clearly across space, calm and steady despite the battle raging around them. Varkoth vessels, this is Captain Morrison. You will cease your attack on the civilian ship and withdraw immediately. This is your only warning. War leader Thaxith laughed when he heard the message. 1 ship against 3, and the humans were giving warnings. These creatures clearly did not understand who they were facing. Human ship, he replied. You have made a mistake coming here. We are Varkoth. We do not retreat. We do not surrender. We destroy all who stand before us. Well, said Morrison to his crew. We tried to be polite. Amanda, launch missiles. Full spread. The Iron Resolve's missile pods opened like flowers of death. Dozens of smart munitions shot out toward the enemy ships. Each missile had its own brain, able to dodge defensive fire and find weak spots in enemy armor. The Varkoth tried to shoot down the incoming weapons, but human missiles were too fast and too smart. They hit all three enemy ships at once. Explosions lit up the darkness as the Varkoth hulls took heavy damage. On the astral dawn, Captain Zethara watched in amazement. The single human ship was fighting three larger vessels and winning. Their weapons were more accurate than anything she had ever seen. Their shields were stronger than seemed possible. "Who are these humans?" she asked her crew. Communications officer Nethal was listening to radio chatter from the battle. "Captain, I'm picking up reports from across the galaxy. These humans have been fighting the Varkoth for months. They always win." The battle was turning. One Varkoth ship was already listing badly, its engines dead. The second was trying to retreat, but the Iron Resolve's railguns kept finding their target. Only the flagship was still fighting effectively. War leader Thaxith realized he was facing something new. These humans fought like nothing he had encountered. They were calm under fire. Their weapons hit exactly where they aimed. Their ship took punishment that would have destroyed any other vessel. For the first time in his long life, Thaxith felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Morrison saw the enemy wavering. "Lisa, prepare boarding parties. If any of those ships try to ram us, we need to be ready." Commander Hayes nodded and activated the ship's marine quarters. "Marines to battle stations. Prepare for hostile boarding action." The Iron Resolve continued, its deadly work protecting the helpless refugee ship while destroying the enemies of peace. In the cold dark between stars, humanity had found its calling. The space around the Iron Resolve lit up like a deadly fireworks show. Plasma bolts, railgun slugs, and missile explosions turned the darkness into a battlefield of light and death. Captain Morrison stood calm at the center of it all, watching his crew work with the precision of a fine machine. "Second Varkoth ship is breaking apart," reported Amanda Price from her tactical station. Her fingers danced across the controls as she targeted the third enemy vessel. "The flagship is trying to circle around us." Morrison nodded. War leader Thaxith was no fool. The Varkoth commander had realized that fighting the humans head-on was suicide. Now he was trying to use speed and maneuvers to get behind the Iron Resolve where her main guns could not reach. "Ryan, track that flagship. Don't let him get to our 6, Morrison ordered. Lieutenant Commander Torres worked his controls. "Aye, sir. He's fast, but we're faster. Adjusting course to keep our guns on target." The Iron Resolve turned like a dancer, all 2 kilometers of her moving with grace that seemed impossible for something so large. Human engineering had learned to make big ships that could fight like small ones. It was a lesson that had cost their enemies dearly. On the Varkoth flagship, war leader Thaxith watched his fleet die around him. The second cruiser was gone, broken into pieces that drifted cold through space. The first cruiser was trying to limp away on damaged engines, but human missiles were hunting it down like wolves chasing wounded prey. "War leader," called his tactical officer, "we cannot match their firepower. Our weapons barely scratch their shields. Their weapons cut through our armor like it is made of soft metal." Thaxith's mandibles clicked with rage. In 40 years of conquest, no enemy had ever made him feel helpless. The humans fought with a coldness that matched his own people, but their technology was beyond anything he had seen. "Prepare the ramming protocol," he ordered. "If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will take them with us when we die." His crew looked shocked. Ramming was a desperate tactic used only when all hope was lost. But their war leader had decided, better to die with honor than flee in shame. On the Iron Resolve, Lieutenant Commander Torres saw the enemy ship change course. "Captain, the flagship is coming straight at us. High speed. I think they mean to ram." Morrison's eyes went cold. Ramming was the last trick of a desperate enemy, but it could work. Even the Iron Resolve might not survive a direct collision with a ship that size. "Lisa, get our Marines ready for boarding action. If that ship gets close enough to ram, we're going aboard first." Commander Hayes activated the Marine quarters. "Marine squad leaders to the hangar bay. Combat gear and breach charges. We're going hunting." Deep in the ship, Sergeant Major Tony Rodriguez gathered his Marines. He was a big man with scars on his face from a dozen battles. His squad leaders were tough veterans who had fought across the galaxy. "Listen up," Rodriguez told them. "We're going to board a Varkoth ship. These bugs don't surrender and they don't show mercy. Neither do we. Get in fast, hit hard, and watch each other's backs." Staff Sergeant Carla Washington checked her plasma rifle. She was smaller than most Marines, but twice as mean. "What's the target, Sergeant Major?" "Engineering section. We stop their engines, we stop their ramming run. Simple as that." The Marines loaded into their boarding craft. These were small, fast ships designed to punch through enemy hulls and deliver troops into the heart of enemy vessels. Each Marine wore powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any normal human. Meanwhile, the battle in space continued. Chief Engineer Paul Martinez worked miracles in the engine room, keeping all systems running despite the punishment they were taking. The iron resolve shook as another Varkoth plasma barrage hit her shields. "Bridge, this is engineering," Martinez called over the comm. "Shields are holding, but we're running hot. I can give you full power for maybe 20 more minutes before we need to cool down." "Make it 30, Paul," Morrison replied. "We'll be done by then, one way or another." The Varkoth flagship was closing fast. Thaxith had pushed his engines beyond safe limits. His ship glowed red-hot from the strain, but it was picking up speed with every second. At this rate, impact would come in less than 5 minutes. "Amanda, target their engines. Everything we have." Tactical Officer Price fired. Every weapon the Iron Resolve could bring to bear. Railguns, missiles, and energy weapons all focused on the rear of the enemy ship. But the Varkoth had angled their approach to protect their most vital systems. The human weapons scored hits, but not enough to stop the ramming attempt. "Boarding craft away," reported Commander Hayes. "Marines are launching now." The small human ships shot across space toward the enemy flagship. Varkoth Point Defense tried to stop them, but the boarding craft were too small and too fast. They hit the enemy hull like bullets, cutting through armor with plasma torches. Rodriguez led his Marines through the breach into the Varkoth ship. The corridors were dark and twisted, built for creatures that thought differently than humans. Emergency lights cast strange shadows that made it hard to see enemies before they attacked. The first Varkoth warrior came around a corner with claws, extended and mandibles spread wide. Rodriguez put 3 plasma bolts into its chest before it could react. Human reflexes and human weapons proved superior once again. "This way to engineering," called Washington, reading her tactical display. 2 levels down and 3 sections. Forward." The Marines moved through the enemy ship like a force of nature. Their powered armor let them smash through bulkheads when doors would not open. Their weapons cut down every Varkoth that tried to stop them, but the enemy ship was huge and time was running out. On the Iron Resolve's bridge, Morrison watched the distance counter tick down. 3 minutes to impact, 2.5, 2 minutes. "Paul, emergency power to forward shields. Everything you can give me." "Already done, Captain. We're running so hot down here that the paint is melting off the walls, but you've got maximum power." The Varkoth flagship filled the main screen now. It looked like a black mountain falling toward them, its hull glowing from the heat of its overloaded engines. Taxith had committed everything to this final attack. In the enemy engineering section, Rodriguez and his Marines fought their way through the last defenders. The Varkoth engineers tried to stop them with hand tools and desperation, but military training was too much for them. "Plant the charges," Rodriguez ordered. "Blow their main reactor. That'll stop their engines dead." Washington set the explosives with practiced skill. 30 seconds and counting. "We need to get out of here." The Marines ran for their boarding craft as the charges counted down. Behind them, the Varkoth engineering section disappeared in a ball of white fire. The explosion tore through the flagship's power systems like lightning through a tree. On the bridge of his dying ship, War Leader Thaxith felt his vessel shudder and slow. The engines were gone. The ramming attack had failed. His last hope of taking the human ship with him was finished. The Iron Resolve turned to face the crippled flagship, its weapons trained on the enemy bridge like the eyes of a predator looking at wounded prey. "Varkoth vessel, this is Captain Morrison. Your ship is disabled. Surrender now and your crew will be treated according to galactic law." Thaxith looked around his ruined bridge. Half his crew was dead. His ship was dying. The humans had beaten him completely. But surrender was not in the Varkoth nature. "Human captain," he replied. "We are Varkoth. We do not surrender." Morrison's voice came back cold as space itself. "Then you will die." The Iron Resolve's main guns fired one last time. The silence after the battle was louder than all the explosions that came before. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the wreckage of 3 Varkoth ships drift past the viewing ports. The enemy was gone, but victory had come at a cost. "Damage report," he ordered. Lieutenant Kevin Murphy's voice came over the comm system. "Hull breaches on decks 7, 12, and 15. We lost the port missile pod. Shield generators are running at 60%. 23 crew members. Wounded, but no deaths." Morrison nodded. They had been lucky. Fighting 3 enemy ships at once could have ended much worse. His crew had done their jobs with the skill that made human warships feared across the galaxy. "Nicole, open a channel to the civilian ship." Communications Officer Baker worked at her station. "Channel open, sir." "Captain Zethara, this is Morrison. The immediate threat is over. What is your status?" On the Astral Dawn, Captain Zethara still could not believe what she had witnessed. 1 human ship had destroyed 3 Varkoth cruisers like they were training targets. Her people had always believed that intelligence and technology would triumph over violence, but they had never seen technology like this. "Captain Morrison," she replied, her voice shaking slightly. "We have 50,000 refugees aboard. Our engines are dead, and life support is failing. We have perhaps 4 days before our air runs out." Morrison looked at his executive officer. Commander Hayes was already checking the tactical displays. "Sir, we have repair teams and emergency supplies. We can help them." "Do it," Morrison ordered. "Paul, get your people ready to transfer to the civilian ship. We're going to fix their engines." Chief Engineer Martinez was already gathering his repair teams. "Aye, Captain. We'll need to take some of our rare earth supplies, but we can get their quantum drive working again." Dr. Susan Clark prepared her medical team. The ship's doctor was a small woman with gentle hands and a voice that could calm anyone. "Sir, request permission to transfer medical supplies to help their wounded." "Granted. Take whatever you need." Within an hour, human repair crews were working inside the Astral Dawn. Chief Martinez led his engineers through the alien ship's engine room, studying technology that was completely different from anything humans used. "This is beautiful work," Martinez told his team. "Look at how they've integrated their power systems. It's like art and engineering had a baby." The Zephyrian engineers watched in amazement as the humans worked. Paul Martinez and his people moved with confidence and skill, but they also showed respect for the alien technology they were repairing. Kiltos, the Zephyrian chief engineer, worked alongside Petty Officer Chris Bennett. Despite their different backgrounds, the 2 engineers found they could understand each other through their shared love of making things work. "Your people build for war," Keltos observed, "but you also understand beauty in engineering." Bennett smiled as he connected a new power coupling. "My grandfather always said that anything worth building is worth building right. Doesn't matter if it's a warship or a garden." In the medical bay, Dr. Clark worked with Zephyrian healers to treat the wounded from both ships. The aliens had amazing knowledge of biology and medicine, while the humans had advanced surgical tools and techniques. "Your healing methods are incredible," Dr. Clark told the lead Zephyrian healer. "The way you can regenerate damaged tissue is beyond anything we've developed." The healer's large eyes showed wonder as she watched human medical scanners work. "And your machines can see inside a body without cutting it open. Such knowledge could save many lives." Meanwhile, Captain Morrison toured the refugee sections of the Astral Dawn. What he saw there changed him. Families huddled together in spaces barely large enough for one person, children who had lost their parents, elderly Zephyrians who had lived their whole lives in peace, now facing death among the stars. Captain Zethara walked beside him. "These are teachers, artists, scientists. They have never known war. When the Varkoth came, they had no weapons to fight back, no soldiers to defend them." Morrison stopped beside a group of Zephyrian children. They looked up at him with large, curious eyes. One small child reached out to touch his uniform with tiny fingers. "Why did you come to help us?" the child asked in broken galactic standard. "We are not your people." Morrison knelt down so he was at the child's eye level. Because it was the right thing to do. Where I come from, we believe that good people should help each other, no matter what they look like or where they come from. The child smiled, and Morrison felt his heart tighten. This was why humans fought, not for glory or conquest, but to protect innocents like this child from those who would harm them. Hours passed as the repair work continued. Slowly, the Astral Dawn systems came back to life. The quantum drive hummed with new power. Life support systems began working at full capacity again. The air grew fresh and clean. "That should do it," Martinez announced. "Your engines are running. Better than new. The quantum drive will get you to the Centauri free zone in 3 days." Captain Zethara felt tears of joy run down her blue cheeks. "Captain Morrison, we have no way to repay you. You have saved 50,000 lives." Morrison shook his head. "No payment needed, but I do have a request. Anything. The galaxy is a dangerous place. There are more Varkoth fleets out there and other enemies who prey on peaceful people. Would you be willing to share your technology with us? Your knowledge of medicine and engineering could help us save more lives." Zethara did not hesitate. "Yes. Our people will work with yours. We will teach you what we know and learn from what you can show us." The two captains shook hands, sealing an alliance that would change both their peoples forever. Human military, might combined with Zephyrian wisdom and technology, would create something new in the galaxy. As the Iron Resolve prepared to leave, Captain Morrison received a message from Admiral Patricia Stone, his commanding officer. Her face appeared on the main screen, showing a woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. "Captain Morrison, I've received your report. Congratulations on a job well done. The refugee ship has been escorted to safety?" "Yes, Admiral. They're on their way to the Centauri free zone, and we've made first contact with a new species. They're willing to share technology and knowledge." Admiral Stone smiled. "Excellent. The politicians back home will be pleased. But more importantly, you've shown the galaxy what humanity stands for. Word of this battle is already spreading. 3 Varkoth ships destroyed by 1 human vessel. The enemy will think twice before attacking defenseless civilians again." Morrison nodded. "What are our orders, Admiral?" "Continue your patrol. Intelligence reports more Varkoth activity in the Outer Rim. Civilian ships need protection, and you've proven that 1 human warship can make all the difference." The Iron Resolve turned away from the Astral Dawn and activated its hyperspace engines. As the human warship disappeared into the void, Captain Zethara watched from her bridge. The humans had appeared from nowhere, saved her people, and asked for nothing in return except friendship. "Where are they going?" asked Kyltos. "To help others," Zethara replied. "To stand between the darkness and those who cannot defend themselves." The Astral Dawn continued its journey to safety, carrying 50,000 refugees to a new home. But more than that, it carried the news of humanity's courage to every corner of the galaxy. The species that had emerged from the Galactic Rim was not like the others. They fought not for conquest but for justice. They protected not their own kind, but all who needed protection. In the cold depths of space, the Iron Resolve searched for its next mission. Captain Morrison and his crew were ready to answer any call for help that echoed through the void. They were humanity's guardians, the shield that stood between civilization and chaos. The galaxy would never be the same,